What is up, guys? How are you doing? Welcome back to another video here on the channel. Thank you for tuning in. And in today's video, I'm going to talk about the insane story of the Mayhem band, which, despite being considered one of the best bands in the black metal genre, has a trajectory marked by bizarre events, controversies, and crimes. Mayhem is a Norwegian black metal band formed in Nordre Follo, Norway. Founded in 1984, the band were one of the pioneers of this genre in Norway and are seen as a major influence on the bands that came after them. Guitarist Øystein Aarseth was responsible for creating the band. He was first known as Destructor and then as Euronymous. He was joined by bassist Jørn Stubberud, known as Necro Butcher, and drummer Kjetil Mannheim. The band started out playing covers of famous bands such as Black Sabbath and Motorhead, until a while later they recorded their first demo. After the release of the demo between 1986 and 1987, the band recruited two more vocalists, Erik Norheim, known as Messia, and Sven Erik Christiansen, known as Maniac. The two only stayed with the group for a few shows, and then left, giving way to Swedish vocalist Per Yngve Olin, better known by his stage name Dead and the nickname Pelle, and drummer Jan Axel Blomberg, nicknamed Hellhammer. With Dead, the band's concerts became even more sinister and eye-catching. The man made a great effort to build a presence on stage that would remain in the memory of those who attended the band's concerts. From the beginning of his career, he was known for putting on makeup to look like a corpse. According to people close to him, the singer's habit had nothing to do with the way Kiss and Alice Cooper wore makeup, as Dead really wanted to look like a corpse. Hellhammer, another member, said that Dead was the first black metal musician to wear makeup to look like a corpse. As well as painting his face, Dead would bury the clothes he would wear on stage and then dig them up again to wear on the night of the shows. In his performances, Dead used to injure himself with hunting knives and shards of glass. In addition, the band often carried pigs or sheep's heads on stakes and placed them in front of the stage. Now, to get a better context of the story, let's talk a little about one of the central figures in this case, Per Yngve, better known as Dead. Per Yngve Pelle Olin was born on January 16, 1969, in Västerhaninge, Sweden. He was the son of Anita Forsberg and Lars Olin, who divorced shortly after his birth. As a child, Dead had some health problems. He suffered from sleep apnea and, at the age of 10, suffered an internal hemorrhage when his spleen ruptured after an alleged ice skating accident. However, years later, his brother Anders Olin said in an exclusive interview that Dead was often bullied at school and suffered a ruptured spleen as a result of a beating from his classmates. Because of this injury, Dead had to be rushed to hospital, where he was declared lifeless for a while. For some people, it was this near-death experience that sparked his fascination with morbidity and gave rise to his stage name. As a teenager, Dead developed a taste for heavy metal and rock, especially bands like Black Sabbath, Kiss, Iron Maiden, AC/DC, Motorhead, and Bathory. Bathory later changed their musical style, and Dead said they were cowards for doing so. In early 1986, he founded the Swedish thrash and death metal group Morbid, with whom he recorded a demo tape entitled December Moon. However, disappointed with the direction of his band, he decided to contact the members of Mayhem, as he had information that the group needed a new vocalist after Maniac's departure. To join the band, Dead sent the members a small package containing a demo tape, a letter detailing his ideas for the future, and believe it or not, a crucified rat. From there, the dude moved to Norway in the early 1988 and became the official lead singer of the Mayhem band. At the shows, Dead made a great effort to create the image and atmosphere he desired. As I said before, he had the habit of burying his clothes so that they would start to rot and look like clothes from a corpse. According to the other band members, once he himself asked to be buried because he believed that this would make his skin pale. During a tour with the Mayhem band, Dead came across a lifeless crow and decided to keep it in a plastic bag. According to reports, the singer used to carry this bird around and prior to going on stage, he would sniff the bird. He also collected dead geese and kept them under his bed, as stated in the reports. During a concert on February 3, 1990, Dead cut his arm with a broken bottle on stage, all on purpose, wanting to say that it was also part of his show. But because of this, he had to be taken to hospital as soon as the show was over. During an interview, the singer explained how he and the rest of the band kicked out people who didn't agree with their style. He said that before they started playing, there was always a crowd, but that from the second song onwards, they started throwing pigs' heads, and that made a lot of people leave. He and the other members liked this kind of practice. According to them, if someone doesn't like blood and rotten meat thrown in their face, they can go fuck themselves. On April 8, 1991, at the age of 22, Dead took his own life in a house rented by the band. He used a hunting knife to wound his wrists and throat, and then shot us in the head with a shotgun. He left a brief farewell note. In this farewell note, Dead began with the phrase, "Sorry for all the blood," and included a brief explanation saying that no one will ever understand this, but as a sort of explanation, I'm not human, this is just a dream and I'll wake up soon. He finished by saying, "As a final greeting, I present eternal life. Do what you like with it. I didn't invent it now, but 17 years ago." The eternal life Dead was referring to was a song he wrote and left attached to his farewell note. The singer's body was found by Euronymous, another member of the band, who had to climb through an open window because the doors were locked and there were no other keys to the house. Instead of calling the police, Euronymous went to a nearby store to buy a disposable camera with which he took several photos of the body. After taking photos and organizing some of the items on the set, he called the emergency services. The incident caused a rift between Euronymous and some of his friends in the band who were disgusted by the man's attitude towards Dead before he took his life and Euronymous' behavior afterwards. Member Necrobutcher ended his friendship with Euronymous and left the band. There was later speculation that Euronymous had left Dead alone in the house on purpose so that he would have the chance to take his own life, as he already knew it would happen. Dead's funeral was held at the East Haninge Church on April 26, 1991. He was buried in the East Haninge Cemetery in Stockholm, Sweden. As previously mentioned, Dead was known for his morbid personality and his obsession with what was on the other side. He would collect lifeless birds, wear t-shirts with funeral advertisements, and put on makeup to look like a corpse, as previously mentioned. Acquaintances and colleagues of the musician who are known described him as a tough person to befriend and at times even to understand. The man was very introverted and depressed, and these traits only increased over time. Among other things, Dead had a history of isolating himself for long periods in his room. Mayhem's drummer Hellhammer described Dead's personality as very strange, depressed, melancholic, and dark. Similarly, guitarist Euronymous once said that he thought Dead was mentally insane. He said there was no other way to describe a person who would go without food only to get hunger sores and wear shirts with funeral announcements on them. The band's former drummer, Kjetil Mannheim, compared Dead's personality to Cotard's delirium, a rare condition that manifests itself in the belief that the body is not that of a living human being, but a corpse. For him, this theory is founded on a variety of statements from Dead regarding his blood and his body. Now, for another drummer named Falsey Antoon, Dead wasn't someone you could really get to know well. He mentioned that it was challenging for you to establish a close relationship with him and that you had only met him 2 weeks before he took his own life. The guy said that the singer had a lot of weird ideas and no sense of humor. He also said that he thought Dead didn't like living in this world, which obviously resulted in his decision. New band member Occultus, who briefly took over as lead singer after the case, commented that Dead didn't even have a normal perception of himself. Occultus said that man didn't see himself as human, but as a creature from another world. Dead said that he had many visions in which his blood froze in his veins, and he was lifeless, and that was the reason why he wore that surname. According to a longtime friend of the singer, who is known as Old Nick, Dead did not have a liking for technology. He would only write letters to himself or to others, but he never resorted to using a computer. His friends said that technology in general made him feel uncomfortable.
As time went on, Dead's social situation and his fascination with the morbid caused a significant decline in his mental state, worsening it considerably. He would casually cut himself in front of his friends, who always had to stop him and forcibly bandage him up. In spite of the upset it caused among the band members, Euronymous found himself deeply fascinated by Dead's macabre ideology. He felt that this extreme negativity suited the band's image very well. Moreover, based on the accounts of certain individuals, Euronymous was pressuring Dead to end his own life. Before all of this, in 1990, the band members moved to a house right in the middle of the woods.
This house was used for them to rehearse and also write new songs. It's said that the relationship between Dead and Euronymous became increasingly complicated to the point where the two fought and stopped being friends. Hellhammer said that Dead once went off to sleep in the woods because Euronymous was playing a song he hated. Euronymous then, to provoke Dead even more, went out and started shooting into the air with a shotgun. In addition, Varg Vikernes said that Dead once attacked Euronymous with a knife after they argued. Despite all these controversies and disagreements within the band, Roadrunner Records magazine ranked Dead 48th out of 50 of the greatest metal acts of all time. Everything got even more bizarre when the band decided to use one of the photos of Dead's corpse as the cover of the album The Dawn of the Black Hearts, which they released a while later. This case marked a turning point in the history of Norwegian black metal, leading to a wave of reprehensible behavior on the part of fans of the genre and members of up-and-coming bands. For some analysts, Dead's case brought about a change of mentality in the black metal scene and was the first in a series of infamous events made by members of this style. Euronymous used the case to promote the evil image of the band Mayhem and claimed that Dead had taken his life because he was upset about it, that black metal had become a fad and was being marketed. For Necrobutcher, taking photos and forcing others to see them was a way for Euronymous to deal with the shock of finding his friend's body. After Hellhammer revealed the photos of Dead's body, Euronymous initially promised to destroy them, but failed to do so. He kept them in an envelope in his record store and sent them to the owner of War Master Records, which resulted in them being used as cover artwork for the album I've already mentioned, which was released in 1995. Over time, rumors spread that Euronymous had cooked pieces of Dead's brain to eat and made necklaces with pieces of his skull. The band denied the food rumor but confirmed that the necklace was real. In addition, Euronymous claimed to have given these necklaces to musicians he considered worthy, which was confirmed by several other members of black metal bands. For Necrobutcher, black metal people became more aware after Dead took his life. In an interview, he recalled how Euronymous told him about the case. He said that the man called him the next day and said, "Dead did something really cool. He took his life," and said that he had taken pictures of everything while the man asked him to destroy them. What happened to Dead had such an impact on the world of black metal that it became a trend for metal fans to produce works of art using blood. Drummer Hellhammer, for example, wrote lyrics for one of their albums with his own blood. In addition to him, the artist Maxime André Tacardy produced a painting of Dead also using his own blood. Dead's fatality and Euronymous' actions in the aftermath affected Necrobutcher so much that he decided to leave the band, cutting the number of members to 2. The group rehearsed for a short time with a new member who arrived with plans to be vocalist as well as bassist. However, this was short-lived. This new member left the band after receiving threats from Euronymous. At the end of 1992, after the hiatus caused by all these events, the recording of Mayhem's next album resumed. Euronymous then hired 3 more studio musicians. Varg Vikernes, stage name Count Grishnak, on bass. Thorn Snorre Rook, stage name Blackthorn, who played guitar, and singer Attila Chihar. Most of the album was recorded during the first half of 1993. To promote the release of the album, Euronymous and Vikernes set fire to and blew up several churches. They even took several pictures of these churches on fire with the intention of using them as covers for their future albums.
However, the planning for the release of this new album was interrupted on August 10, 1993, after Vikernes ended the life of Aron Nemes. That night, Vikernes and Rooch traveled 321 miles to Euronymous' apartment in Oslo. As soon as the two arrived, Vikernes and Euronymous started arguing and went at each other. The fight only ended when Vikernes pulled out a knife and delivered several blows to Euronymous. The man's body was found outside the apartment with 23 wounds, 2 to the head, 5 to the neck, and 16 to the back. In his defense, Vikernes said that Euronymous had ambushed him with the intention of arresting him and doing horrible things to him. Vikernes also said that everything would be filmed to show to other black metal musicians with the intention of making the band more famous in the industry. On the night of the murder, Vikernes claims that he intended to give Euronymous a signed band contract, and that this contract was actually a pretext for him to be ambushed. He said that when he arrived at Euronymous' apartment, the man attacked him first. In addition, Vikernes also claimed that most of Euronymous' injuries were caused by broken glass that he fell on during the fight. Vikernes was arrested within days, and a few months later he was sentenced to 21 years in prison, the maximum sentence in Norway for both the crime against Euronymous and the arson attacks on the churches. Guys, I'm going to talk now just to make the story more complete. A brief summary of Vikernes' life. Christian Varg Vikernes was born on February 11, 1973, in Bergen, Norway. When he was 6 years old, his family moved to Baghdad, as his father was going to work there developing a computer program. In Baghdad, Vikernes studied at an Iraqi school, as there were no places in English schools. According to an interview, when he was 11 years old, he had a skiing accident, which caused a huge scar on his face. A fan of classical music since he was a child, Vikernes started listening to heavy metal at 12 and cited Iron Maiden as his biggest inspiration. He started playing guitar at age 14 and participated in a few projects until he joined the band Mayhem in 1992. Vikernes was released from prison in 2009. After being released from prison, he changed his name to Louis Cachet to avoid getting into trouble with people. He married Marie Cachet, of French nationality, and together they had 7 children. He currently lives in France with his family on a small farm. Blackthorne, who accompanied Vikernes but did not participate directly in the crime, was charged with complicity and sentenced to 8 years in prison. After these events, the band Mayhem disbanded. A year after the band broke up, the surviving ex-members Hellhammer, Necrobutcher, and Maniac joined forces with Rune Eriksson, known as Blasphemer, who replaced Euronymous, as well as Morten Iversen, known as Telok, who replaced Vikernes, who was in prison. And in July 1993, they released the album live in Leipzig as the band's tribute to Dead. The cover of this new album contains part of the note left by Dead, which reads, "I am not a human being, this is just a dream, and I'll wake up soon." In May 1994, the album De Mysteriis Dom Sathanas, which had been planned since 1993, was released and dedicated to Euronymous. Its release was delayed due to complaints from Euronymous' parents, who objected to the presence of bass parts played by Vikernes. According to Vikernes himself, Hellhammer assured the victims' parents that he would re-record the bass tracks himself. However, he was unable to replicate the sound and left the tracks unchanged. So the album was released with Vikernes as bassist, despite the disapproval of Euronymous' parents. The album was considered a classic of the black metal genre by critics. In 1995, a live recording of a 1990 Mayhem concert was released, entitled The Dawn of the Black Hearts. The album is listed as one of the band's top albums, mainly due to the notoriety surrounding the cover art, which is the aforementioned photo of Dead just after he took his life. Around the same time, Hellhammer, Maniac, and Necrobutcher reformed the band with new guitarist Rune Eriksson, known as Blasphemer, taking the place of Euronymous. The group then released the album Wolf's Lair Abyss in 1997. In this new phase, statements by Hellhammer, who has spoken out against miscegenation and immigrants in Norway, have generated great controversy. The band's second full-length album, Grand Declaration of War,
was released in 2000. The album was concept-based, dealing with themes of war and the destruction of the end of the world. The band changed its concept, and the album received harsh criticism for it. The band hit the headlines again in 2003 after a fan called Per Christian Hagen ended up in hospital with a fractured skull after being hit by a sheep's head that had been thrown into the audience by the musicians on stage. A formal charge of assault was filed, but the band claimed that it was completely accidental. The band released the album Chimera in 2004, showing a return to their original style, but with greater production value and a progressive touch. Later that year, Maniac left the band. According to Necrobutcher, Maniac left the band because he drank too much before shows and had stage fright. The band's fourth full-length album, Ordo ad Chao, was released in April 2007. The album contained a much simpler sound than the rest of the band's recent work. It received great reviews and was the band's most successful album, reaching number 12 in the Norwegian charts. It also received an award for Best Metal Album of 2007. In April 2008, Blasphemer announced his plans to leave the band, saying that he no longer wanted to continue but was satisfied with his achievements. After that, the band toured at the end of 2008 and 2009, still with Blasphemer in the lineup, before announcing in the summer of 2009 that Silmaith, a French musician, would replace him.
In November 2009, the band got arrested in the city of Tilburg in the Netherlands, where they spent a few days in jail.
The reason is that they trashed a hotel room during a tour. In an interview in 2012, Necrobutcher revealed that the band had started work on their fifth studio album. In November 2013, the new album was being mixed, with a release date set for early 2014. In January 2015, Mayhem, Watain, and Revenge played together as part of the Black Metal Warfare Tour in the United States. Mayhem and Watain played again in the United States in November 2015 with Rotting Christ as part 2 of the previous tour. In 2016, bassist Necrobutcher released a book entitled The Death Archives, Mayhem 1984 to 1994. In this book, he tells his side of the story about the band's controversies. The book contains a collection of memories and photos of moments from the group. In 2018, the band released a remixed and remastered version of A Grand Declaration of War. Also in 2018, a fragment of Dead Skull was put up for sale for $3,500, along with a letter from Euronymous that read, "Okay, that should be all. I'm enclosing a little piece of Dead Skull in case you want it. See you soon." Mayhem's sixth studio album, Damon, was released on October 25, 2019. The album's characterized by a return to the more traditional style of black metal. That same year, during an interview, Necrobutcher claimed to have made plans to take Euronymous' life because he was disgusted by the man's treatment of Dead, but was eventually persuaded by Friends to give up the idea. Still in 2018, a film called Lords of Chaos was released. The film is based on the life of Oystein Arseth Euronymous, founding member of Mayhem, where it shows his life and career and was described as a terrifying story based on real events about a dream that became a nightmare for a group of teenagers who leave the control. In 2020, it was announced that drummer Tony Laureano would be temporarily replacing Hellhammer on the Decibel magazine tour due to an injury to Hellhammer's shoulder. However, the tour was canceled due to the pandemic issue that plagued the world. In 2021, the band Mayhem was inducted into the Rockheim Hall of Fame after being nominated for the third time earlier that year. They are the only black metal group with this title. The band released a new album on July 9, 2021. They went on tour in the United States in 2022, starting on March 7 and running until April 3rd. And this was the well-known story of the band Mayhem until now, a Norwegian band full of controversy, bizarreness, and crime.